Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Mind the Mental Monday. It's a good to be alive. It's been a beautiful day today, and I'm so excited to be here tonight to be talking with you about minding the mental. So, as you're coming in, I hope that you will let me know where you're joining from so that I can see where you're joining from. What's my other ask? I'm gonna do my asks now in case I forget them at the end, because I'm just at that age where sometimes thoughts just go out of my head and then I forget. I thank God for my amazing team who keeps me on point and on track. But I'm going to do my asks now. I ask that you please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And anytime you miss Mind the Mental Monday live, you're always able to go and see it again. You're able to see it on Facebook Live, on Instagram, not Facebook Live, on Facebook, on my Facebook page, on my Instagram page, and as well as on YouTube. So there's no reason for you to miss it because they're there and you can see any and all of them. I believe this is the 31st. I'll call it an episode, even though I don't refer to this as a podcast. I refer to it as just Mind the Mental Monday because I want us to mind our mental. So tonight, I really want to dive into this topic of being proactive about taking care of our mental health. And you've heard me very often talking about that, talking about the need for us to be proactive about our mental health, the need for us even to teach our children about their mental health and about being proactive. But I don't know that I've actually really explained what I mean by that. I'm not sure that I have actually um, talked about what do I mean when I say being proactive about your mental health. So I'm going to start out just with some definitions of what it means to be proactive. And it's one of those things that my husband says all the time. He always says it's better to be proactive than reactive, right? So our children grew up hearing that, and now our now adult children very often say to him, I'm trying to be proactive. I'm trying to be proactive and not reactive, which says to him that that they actually were listening to him as they were growing up and as he was telling them to be proactive. Don't wait until something happens. Anticipate what might happen and then develop strategies for what actions you will take in the case that that thing occurs. And so I want to talk about tonight. I want to give some practical tools for ways to be proactive about your mental health. And what I'm going to talk about tonight, I'm calling it being proactive, but the tools that I'm going to be sharing with you are tools that my therapist actually shared with me that I thought were really great tools because I think that they help to shape practical ways that we can manage our mental health and that we can take care of our mental health and be thinking about what our needs are, what our mental health needs are just all the time and not sort of waiting to have some kind of like an emotional breakdown or waiting to until something happens, some kind of challenge happens that causes us to have a negative occurrence in our mental health. So let's start out just by talking about this idea of being proactive and what it means to be proactive. So here are two definitions of proactive. First definition says proactive means acting in anticipation of future problems, needs, or changes. So exactly what I said a moment ago, not waiting until something happens to develop strategies for coping with things that might happen, but actually thinking about what will I do in the case that somebody really close to me passes away, in the case that something, my children do something that I don't approve of. Well, what will I do in the case that I lose my job unexpectedly? All of these kinds of things, any kind, and it can be any kind of challenge. It doesn't have to be anything drastic, even, but it could be just any kind of challenge that you might anticipate having, and sort of not waiting for the challenge to happen, but thinking actively about, here are some tools that I have in my toolkit or in my tool chest in the case that I need them. It's similar to, what I'm talking about tonight, similar to having an actual toolkit. When you have a toolkit in your home or in your car or whatever the case might be, the reason for that is not necessarily that something is broken now, but you have a toolkit that has several different kinds of instruments, so that in the case that something does happen where you need a specific tool, then you will have a toolkit that has a variety of tools in it that you can utilize for whatever the situation is. So tonight we're going to be talking about something very similar, where a toolkit that you can have on hand in the case that you need something, a strategy to help in any kind of mental health challenge or circumstance. So again, the first definition of proactive means acting in anticipation of future problems, needs, or changes. The second definition of proactive is relating to, caused by, or being interference between previous learning and the recall or performance of later learning. So, in other words, some tools that you will use will come as a direct result of something that may have happened in the past, and you figured out how to cope with it. And so you remember that tool and you put it in your toolkit. So it's not necessarily something that you haven't used before, but it is something that you learned as a result of having gone through a situation or having had some kind of experience. And so you have determined that, okay, I've been through this before. I've been here before. When I was there before, this is what I did that helped me get through it, and that helped me to move into a better mental health space. It helped me before, it can help me again. So when you think about a toolkit, you don't just sort of take all the tools that you've accumulated and just dump them somewhere. You keep them in a place so that if you need them, you know where to find them. And you can go right to that place and you know exactly where that particular tool is that you need, and you can go get it. So that is the goal tonight, that you're able to hear some different tools that you might be able to use when and if you need them in some kind of mental health situation. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a crisis kind of situation. It could just be a day that you're just feeling down in a particular day for no particular reason. And then what can you do? What tool do you have that will enable you to move through that situation? So one of the things that she talked about that is really good is to intentionally plan a self check. And the self check is something that should be done consistently. It's not something that you just sort of do every so often, but it is actually something that you do really literally like every day. You pick a time, of day that you're going to check in with yourself. And it could be at the end of the day, could be in the middle of the day when you're at work. What kinds of tools can you use? So if you were to check in with yourself at work and you realize that maybe you're not being as productive, or maybe you're starting to think about something that's sort of bringing you down, or you're starting to have feel like an imposter, you're starting to feel negatively about yourself, or about your performance. Sometimes it's you can have in your toolkit something as simple as getting up and taking a walk, right? So in every job, every human resource department will say that employees are supposed to have set aside times that they can take a break. So for some jobs, you might have a 15-minute break. For other jobs, you might have like a lunch break where it could be a 30-minute lunch break, or an hour-long lunch break. Or you might have a 30-minute lunch break and one 15-minute break here and one there. It just depends on where you work and what the culture is where you work. And so you have to be intentional about taking time in your day to remove yourself from that situation. You could take a walk, even if you can't go outside, if take a walk down the hallway of wherever you work, or actually taking a lunch break. When I first started working many years ago, I got into a really bad habit of not really taking a lunch break. So my idea of taking a lunch break would be to bring my food to my desk and like be working while I'm eating. Well, that's not really a lunch break. That's not a break. A break is when you stop and you take a moment to yourself, or some moments to yourself. So what I do now is I actually do take a break. Now, I do still eat at my desk, but that's just because I'm just comfortable doing that. But when I'm eating at my desk, now I'm not actually doing work while I'm eating at my desk. I actually do stop, and I might watch a podcast while I'm eating, or or listen to some music, or listen to something. But I'm going to get up, I'm going to move, I'm going to go either purchase my lunch, or most of the time I bring my lunch, go to the kitchen, go get it, heat it up, do whatever I have to do. So I'm getting some walking in, and then I come back, sit at my desk, and just take a break from the work, shut down all the, because I tend to have 1,000 documents open at the same time. Does anybody else do that? Like have a million documents open or a million pages open? Even that can just cause you to be overwhelmed, honestly, because it's like you feel like you just have so much. So do one thing at a time. Like, okay, I'm working on this document, work on that document, save it, and close it. That's something that's a tool that I need to put in my toolkit, that I just thought of literally just now, that I need to do. A gazillion, web pages open, like it's too much. It just gives us too much to think about. So that's one. So when you're planning on your self check, there are four, and she called it pies, pies. So there are four areas for you to check in with yourself. Some of these are daily check-ins, and then others are sort of every so often kinds of check-ins. So the first one is physical. Take a moment to kind of scan, do a mental scan of your body, from the crown of your head all the way down to the soles of your feet. So if you start at your head and then go down to your neck and your shoulders, how do you feel physically? Are you feeling pain anywhere in your body? Are you feeling stress in your body? all the way down to your feet. Think about how you feel physically, because very often the way that we feel physically manifests because of the way that we are thinking mentally. So there are times that, because we have not taken the time to set aside to really sort of think about ourselves, because we've got 3 million things going on all at the same time. And this idea of, we were just talking about this in our women's Bible study class. One of the ministers at our church was saying that, there's this thing of multitasking, and women have this the worst, like, because we just think that we can do 5 million things at once. And it's gotten so bad that the world sort of expects that too, right? But there really isn't. Your brain really can only handle like one thing at a time. So even if you think you're doing 1,000 things at the same time, you're really focused in on one. And the other things that you think are happening sort of haphazardly. They're not happening at the level that they could happen if you took time to sort of plan out the times that you're going to work on certain things. And when we get overwhelmed and stressed about the things that we have going on, it manifests in our body. And I'll say for myself that whenever I am overwhelmed, whenever I don't take the time to think about my mental health, whenever I don't take the time to rest my body and my body tells me. This just happened just last week. I was Wednesday, I was very tired, just fatigued. And by Thursday, I couldn't even get out of bed. Like, I was in bed until like 3 in the afternoon. But it was really because I was just exhausted, right? And I had not taken time to just stop. There's a lot going on, and I just didn't take the time to stop and allow myself to relax and allow my mind to relax. So if your mind is still turning, you're not really relaxing. So what is a tool that will help you to relax both your body and your mind? Maybe it could be, sometimes I will put on some music. It just depends on the kind of vibe that I need to sometimes I need a vibe that's more of a pick me up. So when I'm working, I might be listening to some jazz. It's hard for me to listen to music that has lyrics to it, because I will find myself sitting up there like singing singing the lyrics and not really focusing on what I'm doing. So if it's something where I have to concentrate, I have to listen to just musical stuff. So I might listen to, there's a lot of, if you have Apple Music or probably Google Music as well, there's different categories you can listen to that can just help you to focus. So I have a one playlist that's called Peaceful Focus that I might listen to. There's another one called Creative Focus. Creative Focus is really good when I'm being creative, when I'm writing, working on a book or working on something creative, working on a presentation that I'm doing. I'll listen to that. And that really helps me to sort of focus my mind. But going back to the physical, it's important to be in tune with your body, because a lot of what happens in our minds manifests in our bodies and we carry in our bodies. So it's important to stop and take note of what doesn't feel quite right in our bodies, and note, is this something that I just need to sort of stop? Is it being caused by stress? Do I need to just stop and take some time to myself? Or is it something that's so out of sorts? I really need to call my doctor. I need to make an appointment with my doctor like right now. Or I need to, I need to, um, go to the emergency room or to urgent care like right now. So take time to check in on your body. The second thing is intellectual. Sometimes when you are so overwhelmed, the other thing that can happen is that your mind just doesn't, it's not as sharp as maybe you're used to it being. It just doesn't, you feel like I go through a lot of like feeling like I'm losing words. Some of that is just age. This is the stage of life that I'm in. But some of it is that I just have a lot going on and I don't necessarily always take the time that I need to kind of step back. And it then manifests in my intellect because it takes me longer to process things, or it feels like it takes me longer to figure out things that I might have to do, assignments that I might have, and it might take me longer to carry out some of those assignments. So taking the time not only to scan your body, but even to think about intellectually what kind of impact is your thinking or is your mental health having on your intellect and your ability to communicate certain ideas, your ability to carry out certain tasks. Really thinking through those things. Okay, the third self check is emotion. Again, sometimes when your mental health is not as healthy as it could be, it comes out in your emotions. So you might find yourself feeling like you're crying for no reason. Has anybody ever dealt with that? Like you just, sometimes you feel sad for no reason. Like you feel like there's no reason. There's probably a reason somewhere in there, but you're just not sure of what that reason is. Nothing in particular happened. Like, you just feel, ugh, like tearful. You might lack energy. You might, sort of go off on people for something, something minor that they maybe did that got on your nerves, and then you just strike out. And that's not your normal way of handling things. So when you find yourself responding certain ways emotionally that you're usually not that way, that is another check in with yourself and sort of asking yourself, wait, where's this coming from? Why did I just snap out at my husband? Uh, you know, why did I just snap out on my kids like that? And usually when those kinds of things happen, it happens with the people that you love the most and that you're closest to and who love you the most because they're just there. And that's not fair, right? To sort of strike out on those that are closest to you because of something that you're going through internally. So examining yourself internally and sort of trying to figure out, why did I do that? Uh, and then the last thing for the self check is spiritual or social. So now, if you're a person of faith, as am I, there are times where I will feel what I will call spiritually stale. So where I normally might be, I'm a worshiper. I love worshiping God. I love being amongst other believers. I love my church, hearing the word, hearing the music, and all of that. And but then there are times where I'm not feeling any of it, to be quite honest. And so when I feel a spiritual disconnect, I have to again examine that and try to figure out where is that coming from? Why am I feeling this disconnect? And for me, when I'm spiritually stale and spiritually disconnected, it's usually in a or feel like I'm in a spiritual drought. It's usually because I have not been as consistent and intentional about my prayer life or my study life or my personal worship. So I have to be cognizant of that. And I have to immediately take some time aside and get to the Father. I got to get to Abba, my Father in heaven, and have a conversation and just have some personal worship time. That it can also be social. You can also be at a place where socially you're distant. You're socially distant from people that you normally might have a social relationship with. So your friends that you might normally have a fun night out with, cousins or family members, spouses, children, whatever the case might be, you're just not with it. You just don't feel like any of that. You don't feel like being social. You don't feel like being around people that normally you might really enjoy being around. You just kind of want to get to yourself. And that's okay. It's okay to get to yourself. But when it's different than what you normally would be about, like if you normally are a social butterfly and suddenly you're finding yourself not wanting to be that, and you're finding yourself being different than what you're used to being, then there's something that needs to be addressed in that. So again, your self check. This is a part of being proactive about your mental health, your intentional self check, physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual or social. And PIES, PIES, is the acronym for that. So, in all of this, it's important to be intentional to set aside time to check in with yourself. You might want to set aside a time every night before you go to bed and do some journaling, look back over your day and check in with yourself. Like, how was I today? I mentioned on an earlier broadcast that um at least the iPhone, and I'm sure the Android. We always in my household, like everybody has a iPhone, and my husband is the only Android owner, and so we always. And then my teammate, uh, Minister Ebony, and my husband always have these iPhone Android wars, we call them. But I'm sure that there's something on Android. It's a health app usually where it checks in with you. If you can set it to sort of check in with you, and it'll just pop up at whatever time you set that you want to check in with yourself, and it'll say, okay, where are you? How are you feeling right now? And you can pick a series of how you're feeling, and then and that's a way to help you to be consistent about checking in with yourself. Now I will admit, I was really consistent about that, but lately I feel like I've started, every time it pops up I just kind of swipe it up and stuff, because it's like I don't feel like doing this right now. um, but it is a good way to sort of help yourself to get in a rhythm of checking in with yourself. Many of us who care for other people, we love on other people and we check on them, right? There are people in our lives that sometimes we might just call and say, hey, I just want to check on you. I just want to hear your voice. I know me and my siblings, if we haven't heard each other's voices for a period of time, it's like, we both get that unction to like call. So it usually you'll call and be like, oh, the other person be like, I was just thinking about you. I was thinking about calling you too. Since we're on that same wavelength. So, there are people that you check in on and just check to see how they're doing. Because again, as I've said many times on Mind the Mental Mondays, very often, especially the strongest people, the ones that seem to be the strongest, are the ones who need to be checked on the most. So just like you might be intentional about checking on that loved one, be intentional about checking in with you. Because sometimes we can get so involved in all the things, right, that we're involved in, work, family, whatever the case might be, that it's really easy for us to use those things as a distraction from dealing with real issues that we need to deal with internally. All right. Sometimes being helpful to other people and all the things that we try to do really just helps us to distract from whatever is going on with us mentally internally. It helps us to not feel like we have to deal with it, but at some point we have to deal with it. All right. All right. So that's a part of the self check. Um, and then the other thing that she told me, which is really helpful as well to put in your toolkit, is to prepare for different levels of stress. So we all have different levels of stress. Some stress is good stress because it's that stress that sort of helps you to be that helps you to get things done, right? It helps you to move forward, get those projects done, get that work done that you want to get done, get those things under control that you want to get under control. So sometimes stress can be a good thing, but we want to make sure that when we when we have stress that happens like suddenly, sometimes we might have stressors, a stress that will hit suddenly. We have to have something in our pocket to go to that will help us get through that stress. So she gave me 4 levels or types of stress that we need to that I need to have some tools, some sort of go-to tools to help get through it. So the first strategy is an advanced strategy, wherein similar to what I was saying earlier, that you anticipate, is that it's like that you have a stressful time coming up, right? You know that you have 5 grants due in the next over the next 3 months, or if you're a student, like you've got your final exams coming up, that you've got deadlines that you've got to meet that are coming up, that there's some kind of family vacation. Even sometimes that can be sometimes that can be stressful, especially if you're the one that's planning it, right? And you got to plan the activities for everybody, and you got to try to make everybody happy and all that kind of stuff. Like sometimes planning for a trip can be stressful. When my husband and we had a whole year to plan, right, to go to Ghana. But at the same time, it's like, wait, we're going to Ghana. Like, what I'm saying? It's not like we're driving down the street. We're like going to a whole nother continent. So there's all kinds of things we had to prepare for. We had to get certain shots. We had to get certain medications that we had to take. We had to get we had to get visas, to visit. Like there were so many things that we had to get in order to take the trip. It was stressful. Then the stress of packing. You don't want to pack too much, then you don't want to pack too little. And what do I need to pack? And do I have enough mosquito repellent? Just all the things, right? So advanced strategies are those strategies that you come up with for those kinds of things that is coming up. It's going to be stressful. Okay, so what do I need to have in my toolkit for when I get there? I need to plan. I need to make sure that okay, I have to do all these things. I need to make a list of what all the things that I need to do. I then need to prioritize that list. And I know that I need to put some dates of when I have to have each thing done by. And I have to kind of stick to a routine or a schedule that will help me to maybe not be as stressed out when I get to that place. I know I have an exam coming up. I know I really should have been studying every night, a half an hour, 20 minutes, a half an hour a night, every single night during the entire semester. But I decided that I'm going to wait until 2 days before the exam and try to cram a whole semester's worth of information. And now I'm stressed out. No, so your tool is I need to be studying all along. I need to have, I just need to be studying all along so that when exam time comes up, I'm not quite as stressed out about this exam coming up because I know my stuff. I've been studying it all along, right? So those are the kinds of strategies to come up with for advanced stress that is coming up. Then the second one, the second strategy is an in the pocket strategy. And that is for those times where stress seems to just hit out of nowhere. Like, some kind of emergency happens that's unexpected. And, or your boss says, I need this report tomorrow, and it involves a lot to pull it together. In those situations, you need to have some little in the pocket kinds of stuff in your toolkit. One of them might be just taking deep breaths, right? And I talk about deep breathing all the time. There are lots of deep breathing techniques out there that you could Google. You can go on YouTube and just search deep breathing techniques and see which ones work best for you for whatever the situation might be. But they work really well for me. Those are things that I use even when there's not some kind of stressful situation. I take time in the middle of my days, especially when I'm at work, to just take a minute to just do some deep breathing exercises. And it causes that because when you're working, especially with like you're sitting at a computer all day, and you start to feel that strain, it comes right around your neck and your shoulders. So, just taking some deep breathing to relieve that stress, that tension, doing some shoulder rolls. These are things you can like do at your desk, right? You do at the table. You can just do some shoulder rolls. You can, just do some neck rolls, side to side, up and down, do some of those, and that can help to sort of relieve stress. My husband bought me this really great massager that it just feels like this. Like it feels like you go to a masseuse and get the deep tissue massage. So I can't always get to the masseuse, but it's a good, it's a good backup to just have you something that you can just put in your chair and turn it on, and it has heat or not. You can go on Amazon and find something, right? Just inexpensive that can really kind of work some of the kinks out. So those are some in the pocket kinds of tools that you can use to head off stressful situations. Another another one is ongoing. So you know that every day you're going to run into some kind of stress. It could be the traffic that you got to face when you're commuting to your job. It could be that coworker that just works your last nerve, right? It could be any number of things. So you've got to have something in your pocket. So the deep breathing that I mentioned a minute ago is something that I keep as an ongoing. That's something that I just intentionally do every day at different points in the day, just to clear my mind and just relieve tension, whatever that tension might be. Another thing that you need in your toolkit is something. something to help you recover from a stressful event that you experienced. So if you if this is for times where your stress level is higher than usual, and you need something that's refreshing. So it could be hey Maria. um you know those coworkers, right? um but it could be that you when the weather is hot, and you just it's stressful and you're aggravated, having one of those, like, those fans with the little squirt bottle that that you just feel a little refreshment on your face. It could be it could be music. It could be taking a walk or taking a run if you're so inclined. Those kinds of tools. What are those kinds of things, that something that'll bring a smile to your face? For me, I'm gonna tell you the truth. Y'all heard me talk about my grandbaby all the time, but there are times where I'm feeling either extra stressed or feeling sad or blue. And of course, my daughter has taken a gazillion videos. So I have a gazillion videos on my phone of her. And I'll just go to one of those videos and just play it. And sometimes I will literally play it a few times because it just brings a smile to my face. Laughter is one of the most underrated tools for being proactive about your mental health. Find something that'll make you laugh. There is even a technique for laughter where you just laugh. You might not see anything funny, but just start laughing. And then you'll start thinking of something that's funny, and then it'll just make you laugh. Sometimes a nice, big, hearty laugh will boost those endorphins and help you to feel better. So people might think you're crazy, but, but that's okay. It's all right. Another thing that I've spoken about before is something that my sister does, is that she will get in her car and just let out a big scream, like just, I'm not going to do that now because I'm not going to blow your eardrums. But I'm telling you, sometimes just get somewhere where you can literally scream and scream out loud to the top of your lungs. And you will be surprised how much that can really reduce some of the stress that you might find yourself in. So I hope that these techniques are really helpful to you. The last thing is, it really is, I've talked about it, but systematic check-in. So this again is systematic, creating a system in which you make it a point to set aside time to check in with yourself. Again, as I talked about earlier, pies, check in with yourself, check in with yourself physically, do a scan from head to toe. How am I feeling in my body? Intellectual. How is what I'm thinking mentally impacting my ability intellectually, my ability to communicate, my ability to do a job or a task within my job? How is my intellect being phased by what I'm thinking mentally? Emotion. How am I acting emotionally? Am I, just yelling at people? Am I, people that I love the most? Am I just screaming at them and being belligerent because of something that has happened inside? So check in with yourself emotionally, check in with yourself spiritually. If you're a spiritual person, if you are subscribed to a religion, I'm a Christian, so I've got to check in with my Father daily, several times a day. And if I don't do that, I feel it. If I don't start my day in prayer and devotion and Bible study, and I feel my whole day is different. Like I can feel it. So spiritual, social, how is what I'm thinking or the way I'm thinking, how is it impacting me socially? Am I usually a social butterfly? Am I usually, the type that likes to kind of get with certain people in my life that are positive and uplifting and just get with them and have dinner and do things, and now suddenly I just don't want to do any of that? How is it all impacting me? Check in with yourself and then have those tools for the different types of stress that you might find yourself in. So again, advanced strategies. You have a stressful situation coming up. Think about that. I know I'm going to be stressed when I have to plan this event. I know I'm going to be stressed when I have to take this test. I know I'm going to be stressed when I have to prepare, this family dinner. Like things that are going to, is coming up. What are tools that you're going to use when that time comes to de-escalate the stress? And in the pocket, a stressful situation comes up that you just weren't even thinking what happened. Something happens all of a sudden. What's in your pocket? I might deep breathe. I might listen to music. I might, pray. I might take a walk or run or whatever the case might be. What do you have in your pocket that you can do immediately? Ongoing, consistent, scheduled things to help you to de-stress, things that you will do just anyway. Mine is deep breathing. That's something I'm gonna just do. And that's something that just really helps me. Um, and then how do you recover? What tools do you have to recover after you've gotten out of a stressful situation? Those tools will be different for you than for me, but have something in your toolkit. It is just as important as having that toolkit in your house, under your sink, or wherever it is, or in your car. When you need a wrench or you need a screwdriver, a flathead, or a Phillips, you need what is that thing called? A measuring thing. The thing you pull out and it snaps back. You got to make sure it don't smack you in the face when you pull it back. A measuring thing. All right. Laughter, laugh a lot. Laugh at yourself. That is sometimes, you know what, we just take ourselves too seriously sometimes. You are not that serious, okay? Laugh at yourself sometimes. just do it. It will help you. I promise you, that's a really good tool. Systematic check-ins with yourself to see how you're doing. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, measuring tape. Thank you, Joy. I don't know why I was. See, that's that thing. That's that intellectual thing. Like I could not think of that. But look at yourself in the mirror and just say whatever your name is. For me, I say, Benita, girl, how you doing? Like, like how really not the Wendy Williams, how you doing? Not that, but the Benita, not your whatever your name is. How you doing? How are you today? Think about how do I feel? How am I feeling in my body? How am I feeling intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, socially? What tools do I need to grab out of that toolkit? It is just as, if not more important than the physical toolkit you might have in your house or in your car. All right. So thank you all for joining in. Thank you for rocking with me. Those of you that have been rocking with me for a long time, for all 31 of these episodes, I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you. I really hope that these are helpful. And but I don't know if they're helpful if you don't talk to me. So I need you to comment and let me know. Let me know if it's helpful. Let me know what are some topics that you'd be interested in. Oh, thank you, Maria. I'm glad. Thank you that you uh, Thank you for saying that. I appreciate you. Yeah, so let me know topics that you're interested in, mental health topics. But um, again, these things, these tools are things that my therapist shared with me. I'm not gonna I'm gonna be honest, and I'm not gonna lie and say that I like do these things all the time like I should. I am a work in progress. All right. So, Mind the Mental Monday is definitely a no judgment zone, because whatever I'm saying to you, it's usually things that either I have done or experienced myself, or things that I need to do. So if I'm telling you, then I have to be to do things, then I have to be accountable, and I have to live what I preach. So I try to do. I do try to do that as a preacher. uh, I do try to practice. I try to practice what I preach. Am I perfect? I'm not, but I'm a strive. I'm a strive toward perfection, though. I'm a strive toward it. All right. No excuses. No, we'll strive. And I'm gonna make mistakes, and I'm gonna make some missteps along the way. But I know that I have joy in knowing I could get back up. So, all right. So that's it. That is it for tonight. Thank you again. Um, oh, Marie says we all are. Thank you for the self-care, self-love information. We all need to do this. Sometimes we feel a little selfish doing things for ourselves, but you're 100% right. Absolutely. We should never feel selfish about doing things for ourselves, because, you've heard this example a million times, but you really can't put an oxygen mask on somebody else if your oxygen is depleted. If you can't breathe, how you going to help somebody else to breathe? You just can't. So you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And then that way you have something to offer somebody else. You can't pour from an empty cup. We've heard that a million times, but it's really true. If the cup is empty, ain't nothing to pour. So we got to fill back up. And that's me preaching to me. Um, and Minister Ebony, I just be quiet because I can hear you. All right, just leave me alone. All right. uh, but yes, so I appreciate all of you, and tune in again. We'll be back next week. Pray for me, and pray for my daughter who is expecting my what I call my baby number two, baby dos. So at any time now. So a week from Wednesday, next Wednesday, the 8th, I'm going to be heading down to Atlanta, and I will be there for a couple of weeks. My goal is to do Mind the Mental Monday. From there, we will see how things go. We will see. But if I don't, I'll let y'all know, and y'all will understand. If you don't understand, hey, that's not on me. So because I'm gonna be helping my baby to welcome her second baby. So uh, keep us in your prayers. Keep Minister Ebony in your prayers, and her family, as they have experienced um, a passing in her family. So keep those prayers up. Pray for this world, the situation in Gaza, and all these wars that are going on. We don't hear about the Ukraine war anymore, because we hear about Gaza mostly, and all the protests and all the things. Pray for students who are exercising their First Amendment rights, and just pray for this world, and let's all do our part in helping the world to be a better place. All right. So, all right, that's it. That's really it. Thank you again. See you next week. Love you all.